Welcome to the Global Experience Leaders series, where we talk to the leaders behind the multilingual digital future, how they lead, innovate, and grow their careers. I'm Spence Green, CEO of Lilt, and this week we're joined by Thiago Schreiner, Director of Global Localization at Blizzard. Over the course of a decade at Blizzard, Thiago has ascended from Localization Analyst to leading a global org of over 150 people. Prior to Blizzard, he was an entrepreneur in his home country of Brazil. Okay, Thiago, great to see you again. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me, Spence. Doing great.
When we last spoke, you told me you were a big fan of Bitcoin and crypto. So my question to you is, have you bought Dogecoin or have
Yeah.
you bought an NFT?
I actually have some Dogecoin. For fun, bought it for pure fun. I don't believe in the long-term future of Dogecoin as a replacement for our current financial system. But yeah, I got some for fun. Just to join the hype. I think it's just a very speculative asset at the moment. It could be the joke that turns into reality. It could not. I guess time will tell. Have not gone into the NFTs. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the intrinsic value of a unique digitized token type of asset. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where the value really is there. I think I like to see these things as like, are they either trying to solve a problem, or they're entertaining. Is it useful or entertaining? And so if you look at Dogecoin, it's like, is it useful? It could be. Is it entertaining? For sure, it is for now. I think people are kind of having some fun with that. But I look at NFTs and I'm like, I don't really see practical use in the normal current society we're in and the systems we use. It's difficult to see the actual use, and it's also difficult to see the entertainment value of it. So if there's no use or entertainment, then it's likely could be useless in the future unless it lands in one of those twos. But who knows? We'll see. It could be just one thing like, hey, I have this really cool thing, and people will find value where maybe just because it's cool. We have examples of other asset class like that where the value exists just because of people believe it has value, not necessarily because it's necessarily useful solving a real life
But I
problem.
guess in your
Yeah.
world, I mean, within games, you have in-app purchasing of digital items that lend some advantage in the game. You could imagine, introducing
Yeah.
scarcity into that market would have some value, or you can, the analog of LeBron James dunk shot, you get like some move on a Twitch video or something that you buy
Yeah.
uniquely, right? I mean, it's not. It, you can imagine people would spend money on stuff like this.
For sure. I mean, that falls into the entertainment category, right? It becomes useful and valuable because it has entertainment value to other people. And I think what that's gonna be and what the evolution is going to be, it's kind of early to tell. I kind of see these technologies as the sort of the early days of the internet. For those who were around in the early days of the internet, like, it looks very different than what it is today. Like the first 10 years of the internet, it was just a bunch of wild ideas trying to become something, and then the last 10 years has been the consolidation of those ideas, uh, and now the internet is something completely different than it was when it first started. So I think we're sort of in this blockchain technology, these type of technologies that are emerging. I think we're kind of in the same space that we were with the early days of the internet. There's a lot of really wild ideas out there. I mean, there's like 8,000, 10,000 cryptos
Right.
right now, I think. Uh, and I think it's safe to say that in 10 years from now, we're not going to have 8,000 cryptos.
Right.
I think we're going to have 5 ideas that survived, and those 5 ideas were going to be the ones that we work on. Just kind of like we have the sort of like big 5 tech companies right now that sort of emerge out of this first era of the internet, and maybe now we're as it relates to the internet, we're kind of going to see an evolution of what it's going to look like. Maybe the big 5 are losing some steam, and we're going to see something else coming up. Uh, who knows?
Well, so it should be obvious from this discussion that you have some kind of an financial background. So I know after undergraduate you have a technical degree, and then you started an investment
Yeah,
consultancy. So why was that your first
yeah.
move, and what lessons did you learn from starting and running a business that have translated later into your career in language, which we'll talk about in a minute?
Yeah, for sure. I think I I always wanted to try a bunch of things early on in my career. I think it's a really healthy exercise to learn how to fail and fail a lot and try different things in the early stages of your career, because you develop more resilience and you learn a lot. You have more energy. You respond quicker. You learn quicker. So I I tried immediately as much as I could to jump into as many businesses as I could. And uh, my father at the time was a well connected individual in the city of Sao Paulo, had a few businesses of his own. And uh, he unfortunately passed away at that time. And I sort of took on a few of his businesses and tried to turn them into my own thing. Uh, which led to pursuing consultancies in investments and helping bring international companies into Brazil at the time where the Brazilian economy was really hot. Back in 2007, 2004, between 2004 and 2008, the economy was really, really booming there. So I was just trying to get my hands on as many things as I could. So I did. I had a publishing company. I did programming for software programming, created some softwares myself. I was trying to build some sort of a automated AI system for investing.
Robo advisor.
Anything I could do, I was trying to do. Robo advisor, and it was fun. It was fun, but at the same time, it was a lot of heavy work on my dad's side of the equation, and it led me to eventually sort of like let go of that career and those projects in that life, and try to reset my life and, and kind of start from scratch and do something on my own. And that was not necessarily attached to anything that came from my father. So that was an important step for me to kind of turn that page, and which landed me to start a career at Blizzard. And I think all the learnings I had in my previous life were essential for my trajectory at Blizzard, and it's been a fun journey for sure.
Well, let's
It's been
talk about
awesome.
that trajectory. So you left Sao Paulo
Yeah,
and you started at Blizzard, I believe, as like a QA analyst or a language analyst. You've been there
yeah,
10 years now, almost a decade, with increasing levels of responsibility to now leading the organization. So what were the major milestones in that decade of to getting to where you are now?
yeah. I think yeah. I started as a temporary employee, uh, and then I was converted to full time. This 6 months after that, and I just started with a mindset of like, I know my value, I know what I can be, I know what I can produce. I've come from a very rich professional experience, and at some point this will show up. And the mindset along the way has been, add value to the organization, add value to your team, add value to your manager, find the gaps and find ways to solve those gaps, creative ways, and bring solutions to the table, not problems, and keep doing that over and over again. And that has caught the attention of the management. I think this attitude, and then they just start quickly moving me up the ladder. I think on year 5, uh, I turned director. I think I had 7 promotions along the way, uh, and mostly due to this attitude of maintaining a really positive outlook. It can be very challenging day-to-day work. You can have a lot of frustrations with things not moving as fast as you want, or maybe the department is too complicated. There's always going to be challenges. So I think I just brought a very unique energy and perspective because of my background. I think it's worth mentioning, like, growing up in Brazil in the 80s, Brazil was still coming off a dictatorship. It was a much difficult, more different life than I think most people experience maybe in a more developed country like the United States. And once you go there on your life, once you see that struggle, and once you live that yourself, and you go to work, you're working for a company like Blizzard, and you're living in California, you're having access to this abundance of resources and people, and all of it's just so abundant. Everything is just so amazing, and you always have that contrast in your head. So I think that brings an extreme sense of gratitude for being part of something, and I think that gratitude really carries through your work, and it just makes you insanely resilient. And that resiliency is something that's difficult to reproduce. It's not something you can teach. It's not something that you can. It's not a skill that you can train. It's something you have to. Either you go through some stuff in your life and you learn how to bounce back, or there's no really other way to build that muscle. And so I think that was important. I think in some ways I have to say I might have got a little lucky. There was I think I was at the right place at the right time. I think the people above me were moving on to different roles and doing different things, and kind of open up opportunities for me to move forward too. So there's that. And when I took over the organization, it was around 200 people, and that was about 4 years ago. And now we are at around 150 total global loc, and it's been a great journey. I mean, super privileged to work with the people I work with. They're amazing, and it's been quite a
You
journey
use
for sure.
some important words, I think, and attributes
Yeah,
of people who are entrepreneurial. You mentioned gratitude. You mentioned resourcefulness and industry based on your experiences growing up in Brazil. You mentioned individual initiative and an entrepreneurial mindset. People like that can sometimes succeed in spite of the organizational circumstances that they're in, and in some organizations culturally propel people like that. So would you say at Blizzard you found a culture that rewarded those characteristics, or did not?
yeah. I definitely think the Blizzard was an environment where it fostered that and allowed those characteristics to flourish. But at the same time, I think you have to take a step back in your own company and understand in what stage the company is in. And you have to understand there are certain trends that you will never be able to change, no matter how hardworking you are, how grateful you are. Uh, Companies typically go from a process of innovation, so the innovation phase, the scalability phase, and then the optimization phase.
The S curve. Yeah.
So if you're that curve, the beautiful
Yeah.
curve, we all learned that. And if the company is in the innovation and scaling cycles. Typically, there's more opportunity. There's more wind in your sail, and as you're moving through your career. And sometimes the company is going through an optimization phase where they've grown too much, they have too many operations, maybe the business is not doing as well, maybe some of the products are not selling as much, and you need to start taking a harder look at the organization and consolidating teams and optimizing processes, centralizing work, streamlining how things get done, and depending where you are, like, you're always going to find opportunities, but I think one common mistake is that if you don't recognize which stage your company is in or your department is in, and you try to fight the trend, you're going to end up extremely frustrated, and you're not going to be able to add value, which is the core reason you're working for the company 8 hours a day, dedicating 8 hours of your life. You're trading 8 hours of your life every single day to do that. So you have to find what the trend is, and then you can effectively add value. And I think fighting the trend is not a good idea. And you just have to understand what a business reality is, and having a good grasp of business. I think it's key. I think that's something that really helped me, because I see decisions coming from the management and the company, and I quickly understand why they're being made, because I have a good understanding of how the business works. And instead of making a lot of assumptions and jumping to conclusions that are maybe more unhealthy, it's pretty easy to look at some things and be like, oh no, this makes sense. It's anybody in those shoes will be asking those questions and will be trying to address some of these problems. So yeah, that's my take on that.
You said when you became the leader of the organization, you had 200 people, and now about 150. So most very large enterprises have actually reasonably small language teams and outsource most of the function, where you don't. You clearly have a lot of people internally. So maybe why is that in your particular business? And then how is that team organized? What are the different functions that you have within that org?
Yeah, I think the reason to have such a robust internal operation was to ensure a extremely high fidelity to the original source content that was produced in English. I think the type of content we are working on has a really high emotional resonance to the player. Player gets really deeply involved emotionally and connected to the experience in a way that I think it's very unique, and I think was being the objective of the company to preserve that as part of the core experience of the game, and it might not be applicable to all types of content out there, but I think it was definitely applicable to ours. And I think the approach to achieve that was, have an operation with people that really get it, understand the game, and play the games, and really are passionate about the AIPs and understand the nuances of all the characters. And I think that led to a large organization. I think we were not comfortable trusting that we would have that same level of fidelity with our external partners that wouldn't really quite get the sort of magic of that experience. I think over time we're becoming more comfortable with that, and we have explored different ideas, and we do definitely have some partners out there that we do partner, but we're still quite protective of that experience. I think it's what makes the brand unique, and so something that we're gonna likely continue to pursue.
And which operational functions do you have, and how deep does it go? Do you have engineers building all your own technology, or is there some point at which you say, this is the stuff we do internally, and this is the stuff that we're either going to buy or procure externally?
Yeah, I think we went as deep as it gets, building our own data management solution for localization assets, building our own request solutions, and having our own pipelines for translation, for audio recording, for project management, for log production, for translation, for editing. So I think we, in some ways, replicated what a external company is, but internally, in some ways. And obviously, that comes with some challenges because building everything from scratch can definitely have some side effects, can have some benefits as well. But yeah, I think we went pretty deep there, which led to a large and complex organization, but one that can produce, in my opinion, probably the highest quality fidelity localization that you will get in a game. I think if you were to experience any of the content we do localize, it's quite amazing. I still to this day get pretty amazed with the quality of the stuff we do.
Do you play the games in Brazilian Portuguese and kind of check out how the team is doing from time to time?
I do. Funny enough, a fun story is about that. I've been one of the reasons I decided to join Blizzard is that I've been a StarCraft player all my life. I got StarCraft 1 in Portuguese when I was 15 as a birthday gift from one of my best friends. And he's like, I think you're going to love this thing. And then I played so much that game. And then funny enough, StarCraft 2 came out. I was still living in Brazil. It was in 2000. I want to say StarCraft 2 came out in 2010. I hope I was right on that one. StarCraft 2 came out on the launch day. I called sick at work because I wanted to play the game, and I bought the game. I bought the game in Portuguese, and I played the whole game in Portuguese, and I was like, "Holy cow, this is really good." A year later, the game came out. My hiring date at Blizzard was the same date that StarCraft 2 launched in Brazil. And I was like, oh my God, the stars are aligning here. And it's fun. It was great work by the team at the time. And it feels good when you play something like that, or when you have a localization experience that doesn't feel foreign, or it feels like, especially if you're bilingual, you can kind of tell, like, oh man, this is it just doesn't have the same vibe and the same feeling. And it's amazing when you hit that note, because it just feels good. It just feels like, oh man, this is so fun. But it's hard to get there. It takes a lot of work and a lot of talented people, and a lot of people are very passionate about their craft, which I think luckily we have. Well, yeah,
it's funny. And tell me, for such a large organization, what's your reporting structure? Who do you report into? Yeah. And I imagine it's a position of some visibility given the number of people that you have.
Yeah, I think I've had quite a few reporting changes along my journey. The last reporting change the local organization was reporting into the president of Blizzard, and now it's reporting into the development services organization, which is a group that covers different departments, and localization is part of that. And definitely got a lot of visibility because of that, the scope of the organization. And I think also the attitude of the company towards localization, and the attitude of our developers, and I think there's a really positive outlook on the value of having a true. I mean, if you're going to launch a product globally, and if that product is deep in story and emotion and content, and you have developers and the culture of the company that really understands that. It makes the job a little bit easier. So I think having that visibility also allowed me to educate the audience about the value and importance of good localization. And I think over time we've been Uh, uh, I think doing a good job on that. On that, I think it's important when you're in this role and in other companies. When I talk to other colleagues of mine that are have similar roles to mine, and you have to sort of like express what's the ROI on localization, what's the
Mhm.
value. I think everybody in my role kind of bumps into that wall at some point, and they have to justify, why is things being done in a certain way? Why are you localizing? Why you're not? And I think my advice is like it takes time, and it's an educational process, and it's not gonna be something that you manage to convince the entire executive board or company on very quickly. It just takes a lot of time, and eventually, everybody can come around the fact that a global product requires a global approach of launching that product, and if you do it well, people will like it and they will come back and be like, "Oh, this is awesome," and there is value to that.
Yeah, you mentioned when we last spoke
Yeah,
that it was a current topic in your professional circles, that this idea of in localization, it's actually quite hard to go up and certainly to report to
yeah,
the president or have a relationship with the president of a large enterprise like you do. And so many people end up sort of going diagonally or into another functional area in order to ascend in a company. What would be your advice to people who are thinking about that question? And what's the sort of current topic of conversation in your circles about that?
yeah. I think the topics of conversations has always been like, how do we add more value as localization? How do we show that value? How do we show the ROI? Is there a role for localization to expand beyond the translation of text, recording of audio, and managing those assets and publishing those assets? What are other roles this group can fulfill? I think there is, in my opinion, a second stage of evolution of what localization professionals will become and what the industry could become. Uh, Mostly because I still see some gaps in integrations when it comes to launching a global product between the commercial aspect of the launch, the uh, go to market strategy, the technologies to deploy that launch, the coordination between customer support, quality assurance, and development teams. I think there's still quite a lot of gaps there. And the localization department is uniquely positioned, I think, in most companies where I don't think there are many departments that pretty much touch everything that the company does or has some sort of integrated piece with everything the company does, because you have to be integrated with publishing, every single development studio that you work with, marketing, PR, legal. So there's so many components there. So I think my advice is to be looking at what are the gaps there between all these different components, and can those gaps be solved by the localization professionals? And if they cannot, how can we train those professionals to evolve their careers so now they can not just become good localizers, but can also become good business regional intelligence that understand good go-to-market plans. They maybe can partner a bit more with marketing. They maybe can partner more with a user experience team that's looking for more regional feedback, because the localization people are more well positioned to do that. I think there's so many aspects to this, and uh, but putting all this puzzle together, building the right team, getting the right approvals, having a good vision, executing against that vision, that takes a lot of work, and that takes a lot of. You're gonna hear a lot of
Mm-hmm.
no's along that journey, and but I don't think it's impossible in no way, shape, or form. In like also like I would love to see more professionals emerge from the more technical engineering side of the localization piece as well. I mean, the AI technologies are definitely ramping up, but there's still a lot of human elements, and there's still a lot there that hasn't. I feel like those questions are emerging, and those gaps are emerging. And the leaders and the professionals on this industry, they start looking at those gaps and be like, how do we train? How do we prepare for that? Because there's opportunities there, and I'm a big fan of paving roads for people. And I think if we are seeing the same thing and we can all kind of march there, we can make this journey pretty interesting. You know, we can evolve into maybe a globalization team that's more focused on not just local, but focus on the whole spectrum. I like to think of like you make a product, you go to the globalization team, and don't worry, your problem is solved. This is going to be global. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be customized for every single country. They're going to get the exact experience they want. Like, wouldn't that be cool? But who can execute on that right now, on that vision? Like, I can't I can't say there's no company right now that kind of has that level of
Yeah.
execution. Maybe in some areas they do, but not every aspect of it.
Well, let's talk about that vision. You set a
Yeah,
mission statement for your org. What is that?
yeah,
And tell why'd you set
yeah,
that vision?
yeah. For my org, it's we like to say it feels Blizzard in every language, meaning uh, it's back to that the experience needs to feel what the brand is trying to convey to you in the experience that you're buying into. I think when you're acquiring something from a specific brand, you're going to expect a certain experience. If you buy an iPhone, you're going to expect sort of the iPhone experience, not the Android experience. And there's a certain feel to that experience. That's not you can't really quantify. It just feels that way. And I think in our case, like we wanted to feel, no matter the language that you're playing, no matter where you are in the world, you go in, and it's gonna feel like, oh, it's exactly what I'm. There's no friction. There's no barrier. You just feel like, oh, this is. You actually you don't even notice. You should not even notice that it was localized. You should just be like, oh, yeah, I had fun. You don't even notice what happened.
And you said it feels Blizzard in every language. So, of course, the games are not available in every language right now. So I'm guessing that there are other obstacles to distributing or publishing a game in a linguistic community that are not just language specific. So what are some of and you kind of touched on this when you said, there's operational
Yeah.
components and support components, and nobody really has, an overarching ownership for that. What are some of those obstacles?
Yeah, I think it will depend on the overall objective of each organization and what they're trying to achieve by expanding or their scope of language. I think uh, what language does, it provides more reach to more territories, which is a good thing, but it can also could create other problems, which is now you have to find ways to support
Yeah.
that community in a way that's compatible to what they expect from your brand. So if your brand has really low expectations in terms of customer support and uh, all the other functions that need to be part now of the territory, then it might be pretty easy to just expand a bunch of languages and be like, we're just going to service as much as we can. But when you need to represent other functions and other aspects of the brand that's compatible to what the customer's experience is, you need to make sure those other services are going to be equally good, and that can be quite a challenge. You need, like, in some cases, you could be expanding to a territory where the language is relatively easy to do, but maybe the hardware technology is quite not there. Maybe the connectivity of servers is not going to be great. Maybe the gameplay experience is not going to be great, and you lose some of the fidelity. Maybe customer support or payment methods are going to be very complex. So then you start running into these other walls. But it comes down to what's the type of content and the objective of the brand. I think there's some very small indie companies with small products and mobile games that are pretty simple. And I mean, there's not a lot of expectation on quality and service on those products, and so you can go a bit more wild, I would say. But it depends on what the strategy is.
And last question. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk for a minute about innovation. Typically, when we talk about innovation, we think about technology, but indeed, there can be innovation in people and the roles that you have in the organization, and there can be innovation in processes and the way you run the organization. So, what are a couple of innovations either that you've seen in the last few years that got you excited and that you've implemented, or the things that you think are needed to realize this vision that you have and that the org has in the future that you'd encourage people to work on and think about?
Yeah, I think the innovations that I've seen definitely has been on the area of managing asset management solutions have spiked with very good solutions out there. Project management solutions, in-band communication, I think we've seen in the last 10 years the sort of like Excel email era dying off and more in-band communication more happening. And I think that I think has been the biggest sort of leap of innovation on the technological side. As far as the roles and evolution on the people side and professionals, I think we still have a really large gap to reach. I think we still lack quite a bit of talent when it comes to software engineering and localization.
Mm-hmm.
That combination, I think, is very unique. So I would definitely think that that's more in order to fulfill sort of this really global vision of what globalization could look like. I would say localization engineering, it's the first big obstacle to merge those two professions. It's not quite easy, and the industry hasn't been able to produce those professionals in a scale that it requires to evolve and continue to innovate. So definitely there.
Yeah, it certainly is. So the sort of the trope that every business is becoming a software business. If you believe that, and I think there's increasing evidence that that's probably true, then facility with software and sort of how that merges with language is just increasingly important. I agree with you that it's a really bespoke area of expertise that's not really taught or produced anywhere right now besides getting experience within companies.
For sure.
Well, Thiago, this has been a fun conversation. Thank you for making time to chat today, and keep making whatever it is, StarCraft, Diablo, all these great games, World of Warcraft available for everyone to enjoy.
Oh, for sure. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure, Spencer. Thanks for inviting me. Happy to chat again another time.
All right. Thanks a lot, Thiago.
Take care. Cheers.